Hi, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to the Apps Events Meet the Trainers Summit. We're very, very excited to be here. In just over a couple of weeks, we're all going to be in Busan, Korea for the Google Summit Korea, which we're very, very excited about. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we get started, we just wanted to make a mention that our hearts and thoughts go out to everybody in Korea and anybody who's been affected by the unfortunate recent tragedy in Seoul. It's obviously terrible news. For anybody affected by that, of course, we want to make sure that everybody's healing from that and able to move past that. Okay, moving on. We are very excited to be continuing with the Google Education Summit in Busan. And I have with me this evening, I have Dale Potsky, we have Katie Steen, and we have Nate Gildart. So Dale and I are going to do a little bit to introduce what we're going to be doing in Busan. So we obviously have the Google Summit, and Busan's an amazing place to visit. And then Katie and Nate will be previewing, sort of giving a taster, a sampler to their sessions that they're going to be presenting in Korea, which is fantastic to have them along. Before we get started, just a quick, let me just show this screen here. So you can probably see on the screen, it's a little bit small, but the dates of the summit are going to be, we have the Google Educator Bootcamps on the 18th of November, and then the actual Google Summit is happening on the 19th to the 20th of November. We also have some Data Studio, now called Looker Studio, bootcamp happening on the very first day, on November 18th. And we also have a special guest. Unfortunately, I don't have his profile picture up here. Rob Huben is joining us from Agora Schools in the Netherlands. And he will be talking about his perspective on the future of education and about the projects that they have been running at Agora Schools. It's very, very exciting. Okay, before we get on to, we'll introduce Katie and Nate properly in just a moment. Just a quick reminder that Apps Events is a Google Education partner. We're a PD partner and a Workspace for Education partner. So if any schools out there are interested in the premium versions of Google, please do reach out and we can help set you up with a trial. I'm going to go back to this. So Dale, hi Dale. I know you are at the International School of Busan, of course. So what I wanted to do today is just sort of introduce you a little bit, Dale, and maybe talk a little bit about the school and Busan itself. So Dale, how long have you been at the International School of Busan?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Dale Plotsky, and I'm the whole School of Technology and Learning Innovation Coordinator at the International School of Busan, ISB. I'm in my third year already at ISB, and it's an absolutely wonderful school, wonderful city, and we're very excited to welcome everyone to our community.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dale. I can't believe it's 3 years already, because we worked a few years ago, at least remotely, on a summit at your old school in Peru, of course, in Latin America.
Yeah, that's right. So before Busan, I was in Peru for 7 years, and before that, I was in Ecuador for a while. And these past 3 years have been a bit of a blur, but they've been 3 wonderful years. And we're very excited to have this event at our school to showcase all the growth and what a wonderful learning community we have at ISB. So we're really pumped, looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And so we've hosted the Korea Google Summit at Chadwick in Incheon, near Seoul, for several years, pre-pandemic. So what can we expect? So Dale, how does Busan compare to Seoul?
It's a totally different vibe than Seoul in a very good way. So Busan is more relaxed, it's more beachy. Seoul is definitely kind of the world capital, cosmopolitan vibes when you're there. Whereas Busan feels like more of kind of a laid back type of city. To me, if you've ever been to Vancouver, it really reminds me of like the Vancouver of Korea. So it's got beautiful beaches, it's got wonderful mountains in the background, amazing architecture, amazing transportation, and a really incredible food and art scene as well. So it's in the running to be a host city for the 2030 World Fair, and that's a big, big deal here in the city right now. And fingers crossed, if BTS supports us, I think we're going to get our way, and it'll be a huge city that's on the come up. So it's a really great place to visit and a really inviting and cool city to come check out.
Awesome. And so I think the school, it's not in the center of Busan city. Is it just to the north? What's the geographical location?
Yeah, so we're just kind of to the north of the city, right on the coastline. So we're only a couple minutes away to one of the most amazing surfing beaches in Korea, really. We're just on the outside, but it's super easily accessible and quickly accessible on public transit. And if you take a taxi or anything like that, it's very easy to get through our school. You get to go through a winding cherry forest or cherry blossom forest to come to school. So it's an amazing location, a really privileged location.
If you follow Dale on Twitter, you will see every Friday his Twitter feed gets bombarded with surf photos.
Yes.
Good for you, Dale.
We'll try and make a little early morning surf session happen at the summit. We'll see if we can get any takers.
Yeah, in November. Let's see about that. Awesome. And a little bit about International School of Busan. You mentioned the school, of course. What are sort of one or two projects you're particularly proud of that the school is working on right now?
So one or two projects that we're working on right now is the school is very much in a growth phase, kind of a come up phase from where it was a few years ago. So we have an amazing athletics program developing at the school. We are working on diversity and equity projects this year as well. We're really focusing on service learning. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of at the school is we really put the well-being of our students really at the center. So we have a lot of sort of social, emotional well-being focus on the kids that we really take to heart, and we really try to make, the most impactful and helpful version of a school that we can for our kids. And I think that's the work that I'm proudest of at ISB.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that in person, Dale. I'm looking forward to getting the tour around the school as well. Well, it wouldn't be a Google Summit without a fun networking party as well. Dale, Saturday evening, where are we heading to after
We are going to be heading to Haeundae Beach, and just about a block off of Haeundae Beach, which is kind of like the Copacabana of Korea, beautiful white sand beach. We have a really great microbrewery called Gorilla Brewing, and we are going to be having a private party at Gorilla Brewery with some nice cold beers, some good Korean snacks. And it's awesome. The location of the brewery is kind of right in the heart of where you want to be in Busan. So if people want and they're feeling festive, you can trickle out and go check out some of the nightlife and the night markets and the night cuisine of Busan as well, which is going to be right in that area.
Is it mostly seafood down in Busan, Dale?
That's definitely the specialty here. Yeah, definitely the specialty is seafood. So you have lots of interesting Korean dishes to try right beside where the party's going to be.
Isn't raw squid or raw octopus a specialty?
Yeah, so live eel, that's a big one, and octopus is another big one as well. But if those are not your cup of tea, you have lots of other options as well, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Dale, thank you so much for joining us this evening, just to share a little bit about the school. I'm really excited. I know that Nate and Katie are excited. I was speaking to Rob before, Rob Hubin. He's super excited to be coming across too. It's going to be an awesome event. Okay, Dale, I think we're going to let you get back to taking care of your new baby. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will move on with these sessions.
Sure. I can't wait to see everyone there. It was nice talking with you all.
Cheers, Dale. I'll drop you out. Okay, Katie and Nate, after that quick intro, let's have a quick look at what we have upcoming. So, Katie, just a quick, I know your title is up there. You mentioned before you're doing some private consultancy right now in education. What is keeping you busy at the moment, Katie? Because we met in India a couple of years ago when you were at Stonehill.
Yes. Yep, I'm back in Europe, based here in the moment in Barcelona. And mostly I'm doing a lot of educational technology training and some coaching. So I'm a Google certified coach, so working one-on-one with teachers a little more in depth and helping them use tech in their classrooms over a longer term more effectively, doing some curriculum development and online course development here and there. So several little projects taking my attention and time these days.
Awesome. And so, Katie, you're going to be talking about drag and drop activities in slides. I know there's a quick sort of preview there. Do you want to just give me sort of a 20-second elevator pitch?
Sure. So my focus is definitely on using the tools, using slides and all the other core tools in Workspace in a practical way. So maybe thinking about them differently than we normally would. So we often use slides as a presentation tool, what it was created for, but it's so versatile, has so many different aspects. So in this session, we're going to look at creating drag and drop activities using really simple slide skills to actually get students interacting, being able to use slides as an activity for a center or for virtual learning or for homework activities, all kinds of different things that you might be able to apply in the classroom.
Brilliant. I think people forget how easy slides is to actually create graphical elements. It's my when I have to design something, it's my go-to place. The first place I jump on. Cool. Well, we'll get to you in a moment, Katie. Just a quick intro of Nate Gildart. Nate Gildart, you're pretty well known in APAC as driving GEG APAC and all the GEGs here. I know there's a lot of GEGs collaborating with you, but I know that you are one of the key people driving that forward. So how's everything going right now for GEG APAC, Nate?
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, at the moment, we're planning our event, for January 14th and 15th, a little plug there, where we're going to be inviting people to speak for us, people without experience. This is your opportunity to join us with GEG APAC. We do this with multiple languages, so people can join in English or Korean or Japanese, Hindi, Bahasa, Malaysian, and Indonesian. Take your pick. So we're working on that right now, which is quite busy. We have 3 other quarterly events that we do as well. We just choose a theme and kind of go with it. So we have our monthly meetings. We work together as a team. Everybody has a voice. It's very, multinational and multicultural. Absolutely love it. So it's going well.
Awesome. And it's a good point there, Nate. You mentioned if you are wanting to get involved in presenting at the Google Summit or really any kind of educational event, I think the GEG is the perfect community to get started in because it's a very supportive local community. And what you've been able to do, you've connected those local communities regionally. So it gives people a great platform.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Nate, thank you again for joining us this evening. I know you're in Japan, so it's just after 6 o'clock. We'll come to your session in a few minutes. But just a quick overview. What are you going to be sharing today?
Something I'm passionate about. Just for those who may not know, I'm an individuals and societies teacher and a diploma program history teacher. Teaching history for the last 26 years kind of thing. It's like telling a story, but we will talk about digital storytelling in this session in Korea, but also a little snapshot today. But storytelling really applies not only to subjects like history and English. It's everything, right? Science labs or even phys ed classes. There are different ways you can tell stories and allow kids different ways to explore their creativity. So the session that we'll be kind of snapshotting today and then doing in Korea, hopefully you'll take away ideas where you can say I can do that in the class. So storytelling, but with digital tools, including 360 imagery, which I think is way cool. So that's what we'll talk about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate. I'm very much looking forward to that. Just a quick note before we continue. I noticed, unfortunately, we got hit by a couple of spam comments on the comment stream, which I blocked as soon as I could. We apologize if anything untoward comes up. We'll do our best to keep those blocked. Shouldn't be any more now. Okay, Nate, I'm going to drop you off screen for a few minutes, and Katie, we're going to bring your slides in. So Nate, we'll chat to you in a few. And then Katie, let me bring your screen in.
All right.
Here we go. So Katie, let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll pull myself out as well.
Okay, I think we're ready. All right, everyone. So excited to be here. As I said, we're going to be talking about drag and drop activities with Google Slides today. Again, we really think of slides as a presentation tool, but as James said, it is a great tool for creating graphics, for doing kind of desktop publishing type works. It can be used for so many things and is a great tool for students. something they're already familiar with, but that they can apply in a lot of different ways. But today we're going to be looking at a simple activity type, which is drag and drop activities with Google Slides. And in Korea, we're going to be looking at lots of different interactive activities that you can do with slides. So we'll be looking at all kinds of different categories of those. And this is just one activity that we'll learn to make today. And so again, my name is Katie. I'm currently here based in Barcelona, and you can find me on Twitter or here at my website to connect. I would love to connect with you and see what you're doing, how you're using slides, and if you take any of these tips and activities from today and use them in your classroom. So we'll look at creating drag and drop activities, and that is such a great online tool, the drag and drop activities, as a way to get students involved, not just looking at content, but manipulating it in slides and getting engaged, and maybe even being a creator with one of the activities we'll look at today. And really, the main skills that we're going to be using are very, very simple ones. So you can create hundreds of different activities using this drag and drop method, using very basic skills that you probably already have. So we will really just look at creating objects and tables, formatting those, adding and formatting images in a way that's going to work for your activity. And then the main feature and function for creating drag and drop activities in slides is to use slide backgrounds. So we're creating slides on a slide, using that as an image, and then creating a background from that to sort of create immovable, locked down backgrounds for your slides. So super simple skills, but applied in this way, they have all kinds of possibilities. So first, let's look at a couple different drag and drop activities that I've created just to get the basic idea of how it works. This one is a tried and true English activity. I am a former English teacher. And so we're looking at parts of speech and labeling them in a sentence. So in this activity, I'm asking students to label the words in the sentence with their parts of speech by dragging the parts of speech boxes to the correct words. So here in my instructions, and here is my sentence. The old house on the corner has a big garden in the backyard. And I have nouns, verbs, and adjectives that I want students to label. So we can see when we are kind of playing with the slide in edit mode that the sentence does not move. I can't adjust it. The instructions don't move. I can't adjust it, but I can click on my boxes. Okay, so my boxes that have the parts of speech labeled to them, those I can manipulate and I can drag around. Okay, so for this activity, students would read the sentence, they would decide where the adjectives are, and they would click and move their boxes to the right spot. So we might have an adjective here, we might have a noun, and we might have our verb. Okay. And students would continue that all the way along. And so I've created draggable objects that students can manipulate onto a background here that does not move. And so this becomes the interactive activity that students can complete on slides. Okay. Another example for the science teachers, which I am not, so I cannot guarantee that I would get the vocabulary correctly, but here's another very common activity that we might use in the classroom, either in an online tool that exists already or on a paper worksheet. We might label parts of a flower or label any other kind of image or diagram with the correct vocabulary terms. So I have my instructions to label the parts of the flower by dragging the terms and placing them correctly. I have my diagram of a flower, and I have my vocabulary terms here that I can then click and I can move. And I can at least get petal and stem for sure. And so we can move that here. So here becomes a really simple drag and drop activity that students can interact with. These types of activities are also something that you might see in interactive tools like Nearpod or Pear Deck. So we've created other programs and platforms that have the ability to create these types of activities, and the reason is because they're super engaging. And I am a huge Pear Deck fan. You can always use those types of tools to add interactivity to your slides, but there are also some things you can do in slides itself without some of the extra tools to recreate that interactivity. And so here's an example of how you might do that. So let's go ahead and recreate an activity like this, and I will show you the steps of how to create it, and then we'll look at some more examples of how you might use this in different activities in your own classroom. So very simply, on a blank slide, I'm going to go ahead and create a blank slide. If you were to create a new slide, you might have some text boxes. I go ahead and just select those and delete them, just so you're starting with a blank canvas. It's a little easier, and you have basically now just a blank canvas that you can create whatever graphics you want on it. And to create a good drag and drop activity, we're going to do this in two parts. And one is creating the background. So you want to design the slide with whatever objects that you don't want students to be able to manipulate. So this is probably going to be your instructions and whatever base image or sentence or table or whatever activity students will be dragging things to. Those you don't want them to move. It's not a problem if they do. If you create objects and you want students to drag things to them and you don't create an immovable backdrop, it's not a huge problem, but it does cause maybe some frustration when there's too many elements on the slide. So it can be a little easier to do it this way. So in other programs where you create graphics, something like Canva, you can lock down images on the slide. So you can kind of lock down things that you don't want to be manipulated. But in Google Slides, that's not an option, at least yet. Maybe it's a feature that will come someday. So the way that we will recreate that is to create an image from our slide. So we're going to go ahead and design it. So for this activity, we're going to do an English language activity and have students label the parts of the house and practice their English vocabulary. So I'm going to start with the image that I want. So I'm going to go up to Insert, an image. And there are a lot of different ways that you can upload images into Google. If you have images on your computer, you can do it that way. If you have them in your drive, you can do it that way. You can even use the camera. So using an integrated camera is a great tip where you can get an image right here. So if you're in a rush, if you're creating something from a textbook or from an activity that you have physically, or even an object that you want students to label, you can use the camera, hold it up, take your picture, and you can insert it that way. Okay. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to use the integrated search feature. So I'm going to search the web right here in Google Slides for an image. Okay. So I'm going to say, I want a house. And I love Google image search that is integrated into slides because it keeps students from having to go out. It saves a lot of time from going into Google, finding the images, saving them, uploading them. It just cuts down a lot of steps. It also makes sure that students are finding images without copyright infringements. It's going to keep things a little more safe and help them practice good digital citizenship. By keeping them within images that are approved for them to use. So I'm going to look for an image of a house that I like, and this one might be good for the purposes of our activity, or even maybe this one will work. I'm going to click it. I can select more than one, but I'm going to choose this one and I will insert it. Okay, I'm going to resize this down a little bit, and I might even crop to get closer to the house itself. So I'm going to make sure I'm hovered on these black lines to crop my image down. Okay, I'll hit enter. And now I have an image of a house that works. So I'm going to move this down a little bit and let it take up a good portion. Okay. Now, other things that you can do with images, some other just tips and tricks for formatting images in slides. If you highlight it, so we see our blue squares, which shows us that our image is highlighted, I can go up here to format options. Locking the aspect ratio is a great tool because it keeps it from getting distorted, and we'll look at that as a tip for creating objects that students are going to move around. You can also recolor it. So if you're looking at clip art or different kinds of images, there are some different filters that you can add to get creative. Okay, I like to add a drop shadow just to bring some interest to the slide. Okay. And we can see a little bit of a drop shadow, which lets it pop. And I'm also going to go ahead and add a border. Okay. Next, I'm going to add my instructions. So I have my house, and the goal of this activity is for students to label the parts of the house with vocabulary words from English. So I'm going to create a text box, and I'll go ahead and put that up here with my instructions. And so I will say to label the parts of the house by dragging the words to the picture. Okay. I will change the font because I prefer Proxima Nova for this, and I will upsize the text a little bit so that it's very clear. Okay. I will also add a border here. So I might add a 2-pixel label just to really make it pop so students can see it. If you really want to grab some more attention to it, you can even fill this in, okay, by using our fill color. And maybe I want to label this in red so that students really see it to know what their instructions are. Okay, so this is the basic design elements of my slide. I have the picture and I have my instructions, and these are the things that I don't want to move. So I don't want students manipulating these parts. I will create draggable objects in the next step. So for this step, what we want to do is to create an image of this slide. And there are 2 ways that you can do that. You can take a screenshot using your computer's screenshot function, or you can download this slide as an image. So if I go to File in Google Slides and I go to Download, I can download a slide in all kinds of different formats. So I can download it as a PowerPoint format or PDF. But for this activity, I want a picture of the current slide. So I'm going to choose PNG just of this current slide. So when I click that, okay, on my screen, you can see that the image is now downloaded here. It's in my downloads file. So I'm going to create a new slide. Okay. I'll delete the text boxes that are there. And now I'm going to insert this image. Now we could click and drag this image into the slide. But while we have the image as something as one piece, it can still be moved around. Okay, so that's not really what we're going for. So instead of inserting an image, what we want to do is to create a background using this image. So up in our background tab, you can change the background of any slides to different colors. That's something you might have played around with. But in this case, we're going to choose an image, and the image is going to be the picture of the slide that we just took. So you can click to browse from your computer. I'm going to go ahead and drag this in since it's right here. Okay. And now we can see the background of the image of the slide is actually the image of the slide that we created. Okay, so this can no longer be moved. It cannot be adjusted. Nothing can happen to it. It is locked in place. Okay. One tip I have for you is not to delete the slides where you created. So I would save those at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and move this down to the end of my slide where I keep them, just in case you need to do some quick editing later, or you want to use that as a model and just replace pictures and things like that. So go ahead and keep those editable slides for activities at a later time. Okay. So now I'm going to create the movable parts. And you can do this many different ways. So I am going to go ahead and first create just a text box. So I will create a text box and I'm going to type in the words. So I might say window, okay, and have a word. To make it really obvious for students what they're supposed to do, I again like to create borders and even fill colors. Okay, so I'll select the word and I can see the text box is highlighted in blue. I'm going to add a 2-point border weight. So now this is a box, so it's clear what object we're looking for. And I might even go ahead and fill that in with a bright color so it's very obvious to students. So I might use a blue or a green, something like that. Okay. And you could, of course, format your text. I might bold it and center it just for aesthetic reasons. Okay. So now I have this movable object that I can drag wherever I want it to be. And so you might keep in mind the size to make sure that it fits well with your picture. So you might need to play around with the font size and box size just to make sure that it fits so it's not frustrating for students, so that it goes in the right space. So once I have one box, if I have multiple elements I want them to drag, I just go ahead and copy. So I'm going to copy this slide. For me, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut. So I'll use Command V, Command C, and Command V for me. Okay. And when I have this box, I'll drag it down, and then I'll just change the text inside. So I might add door. Okay, I might add roof. I might look at the other things that I have around the house. I see a bench. Okay. And now I have all of these movable objects that students can drag. And that's really the extent of creating a drag and drop slide. So it's really very easy, but you have all kinds of ways that you can do this, where you can create all kinds of activities and make this more or less complicated and complex depending on your activity. So now I have these boxes that students can drag to the diagram, and they can interact with this activity. Okay. So that was using a text box. The second way that you could create create boxes or objects for students to drag is to use shapes. So you could use a shape, and you can use any kind you want. So you can create just a regular box using a shape. Sometimes I like rounded rectangles better for labels. But you also have all of these other shapes that you could use. So for an example, if we were creating like a math activity, or for our early learners, and you wanted students to sort shapes or do something like that, you could create these. Okay, so we could create shapes. And these can also be then objects that you can manipulate. And when you create a shape, it does come with a text box. So you can even label your shapes right within it. And then these can be moved around, and you can manipulate those size to whatever it is that you want to do. Okay. The third way that you can create immovable objects is you can also insert pictures. Okay, so you could create images, you can insert them here, and so students can move around images. So you can use them from image search, where you can find them and insert them. You could use Google Slides to create graphics that you then export as pictures and import again as movable objects, depending on how much time you want to put into the activities. And so you can really do that in several different ways. Okay, and we'll look at some different activities that use those as well. All right, a couple more tips that I have for you. When doing an activity, it does need to be in edit mode. So this is one of the activities using slides where you don't want students to be in present mode. You need to be in edit mode. Okay, when we go into slideshow mode, we can no longer edit, or we can no longer manipulate the objects on the screen. Okay, when we click, it just brings us to new slides. Okay, so you got to remember and remind students that they need to be in edit mode. But because they're in edit mode, though we have locked down the background of our slide, so that is not movable, our draggable objects are movable, but that also means that they are adjustable. Okay, so students might have trouble in that they can, instead of dragging, they could resize, which is fine. It's not going to hurt anything. One small tip I have for that, though, is I like to go ahead and go in, um, and I'll show you this on another activity, which is to do a couple of things to lock down how students can manipulate those images just to keep their frustration a little lower. So we'll look at that in just a second. Okay, so that is really the basics. Um, that for creating an activity like this. And of course, your imagination can run wild with how you want to implement that. And I have a couple different ideas for you. So, one way that I like to use this is how I used to use my Promethean boards way back in the day. When I use those in my classroom, and having it be something that students interact with to say where they were going or to choose. Okay, so having student choice lists can be another way. So if you have a day where you're doing groups or stations or different activities that you want students to choose from, you can go ahead and create their names and create the activities and have them drag their names over to wherever they're going to be for the day. Sign up lists, all kinds of things where we can see that. Then we have lots of different sorting activities. So sorting activities are really common in the classroom. And so this might be another example where we've created a table as the place where students are dragging things to. I've inserted images just from Google search, and students can drag our pictures into the right column. So you could do this with shapes, colors, whatever it is, rocks, all the different kinds of activities that you have students do sorting. You can recreate that in a digital way. So here is where it can get a little frustrating for students when they are resizing by accident. And so one tip that I have for you is to go ahead and select all of your images and come up here to the format options. So here's where locking that aspect ratio can be really helpful, because at the very least, students won't be able to distort the image. Okay, so that can get, it bugs me. Maybe it doesn't bug students, and maybe it doesn't bug you. But distorting the images by resizing them strangely can be an annoying problem. So if you go ahead and just format all of your images in one go, you can lock the aspect ratio. So at the very least, if they resize, they stay in the correct ratio. So a couple things just to mitigate some frustration that students can have. Okay. The next activity that I want to share with you that can be really fun is a way to do digital magnetic poetry. Okay, so this is basically taking those magnetic poetry kits, or maybe you do them on paper these days, and you can use the drag and drop method using these skills to create a way to do magnetic poetry on Google Slides itself. Okay, so this one is going to be more involved in that you need to create the words. Okay, so depending on how many words you want to create with your list, this is one that can take a lot of time to put together, but it can be reused. So this is one that isn't over very, very quickly. Students, you use it the same one for all your students, and they'll all come up with different poetry. And of course, you can do the same method where you're creating a box or creating a shape and adding in all the words that you want. How I did this actually was I have a list, a PDF paper list of the 300 common words or that are used in the English language that are often used for activities like this. And I just went through and I took screenshots of each of the words, and then I inserted them all at once. Okay, so that can save you a lot of time as well. Okay, so for example, if I were to go ahead and delete these, I went to insert image, and I'm going to upload from my computer. And I went ahead, I believe I started, and I took all of these together. So these are all the screenshots that I just created. And it's going to go ahead and put them all in all at once. So while the time was taken to take the screenshots of all the images, I'm able to upload them all at once. Here they are, nicely layered on my screen. I'm going to go ahead and add a border just to make them look a little bit more like magnetic poetry. Okay. And now my students can use this empty space. And I just inserted a nice background of a sunset to add to the creativity mindset and the poetry feel. And my students can move these around just like they would with magnets or on paper and create their poetry. Okay. If they need to make copies of words, if they want more than one, they can duplicate them and they can manipulate them in all kinds of different ways. Okay, so that is really it. A very easy activity a very easy skill set to create drag and drop activities that you can do all kinds of different things. We looked today, just in 30 minutes, at labeling activities, graphic organizers that students can sort into, magnetic poetry, student choice menus, and of course, this can really do anything that you do in the classroom on paper can be translated to this. These are activities that you could create as individual copies for your students through Google Classroom or however you do your slides, or it can be collaborative activities, and really the sky is the limit for those. So hopefully this is something that you think could be useful in your classroom that you might want to see. And if you are coming to Busan, we are going to be looking at activities like this and all kinds of other things that I hope will stretch your mind to ways you might use slides that you hadn't really thought of before.
Amazing. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Veronica.
Hi, it was amazing. Thank you so much, Katie. I think that really people can looking forward to meeting you at a summit. I would really highly recommend to register to join the summit, and it's a shame I can't be there.
It's a shame.
Next time. Katie, and how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Doing great. Enjoying Barcelona, keeping the sun a little bit longer, which has been nice with some cooler weather.
That's good. This is what you can bring to Korea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will bring the next trainer, Nate. I'm really excited to meet you both here. Nate, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's not long days in Japan, kind of like you have in Barcelona and Spain, but still, yeah, it's all good. Yeah, happy to be here.
That's great. What have you prepared for us for today? What kind of session? What people can expect?
Okay, well, this is one of the, like Katie, several sessions that I'm going to be doing in Busan this month, and it's on digital storytelling, but I'm hoping to inspire you with not only a bunch of different tools and examples of those tools, but also get people thinking that storytelling is not just about books and the news and journalism. There's so many different ways to tell stories. And I'll explain as I kind of get into this, right? But this is not about tools and how to make anything. It's going to be, there is this. So think about what you might want to try. And I'm here to help you out.
That's great. Thank you. And you both will meet each other soon, really. It's nearly in 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can't wait.
Just about.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Nate. So we will leave you. I'm looking forward to be listening to your presentation. Thank you so much, Katie, once again. It was amazing. Thanks for your useful session. I can see that people really like it. So thank you. If anyone has any questions to Katie, feel free to send her any comments, any questions, just anything like that. Also, it would be great if you can join the summit. You can meet Katie there face to face and ask her anything you like to. And Nate, we'll leave you, and thank you so much. Enjoy the session and see you next time.
All right, great. So tell you what, I'm just going to share my screen now. I do have a slide deck. I'm going to use it sparingly because I want to show you some really cool tools. Now, I'm deliberately not going to share my tab because there could be an audio issue. But in the moments that I'm going to share a little video with you, please know that there is audio there. All right, so let me just jump up here. All right, so first, I'm really excited about going to Busan. I've been to Busan once, and it was about 21 or 22 years ago. So it's going to be great to get back. Though I have been to Korea like 5 or 6 times, and I love the place and the people and the food and the culture. So anyway, I'm looking forward to being there. So one of the several sessions I'm going to be doing is on digital storytelling. So we'll look at a bunch of multimedia tools that you can use to not only tell stories, but even just, create a whole lesson with, right? And the nice thing is most of these tools, even your students will be able to use. And I would argue that, for example, Book Creator, I mean, if you have students in early elementary, they'll be able to use it. So you have to use your imagination and your creativity to see how you can use these tools in the class. Very quickly, my name is Nate Gildart. You can find me at Nathan Gildart on Twitter. I am a Google trainer. I'm also an innovator. I'm a GEG leader and GEG mentor as well. And I was very happy to see Vino and Takuo here. They're GEG leaders here in Asia Pacific. And I do other stuff too, but you'll learn about me a little bit later. So we don't have to talk about that right now. At the bottom here, you can see a number of different tools that I will highlight when we get together in Korea. And I am going to show you samples of all of them, in the next 10 to 15 minutes kind of thing. So, and again, this is a slide deck that I'm going to modify for the session. But what I do want to do is talk about things like, methodology and pedagogy. Why is this good for teachers? Why is it good for students? How does this help us with our teaching practice? And how does it help students learn and especially explore their own creativity, as well as us, though? It's not just about the students. These tools, you're going to see that like, oh yeah, I'm into that. And your own creativity as an educator can come out with most of these tools. And again, skills and things like that. We'll get to the tools in just a moment. We will spend a little bit of time in Korea, in Busan, talking about best practices, because storytelling, there are certain skills that you need, but also, and myself as a history teacher and an individuals and societies teacher, those of you that don't know INS in the IB program, it's kind of like social studies, but a little deeper in my mind. But we do have to think about things like, and let me go to this one. Thinking about when we tell a story, how do we represent other people? How do we use language that is inclusive and honest, as well as, the academic skills, right? Citing our work and letting people know where we got our information and our images and things like that. Copyright free, we will talk about that as well. So this is the first tool. So I'm going to jump out actually, because this is not a session about how to. So what I just mentioned for the last minute or so, these are things that we will take about, 10 minutes talking about, and we'll talk to each other. So right now, what I want to do is hopefully inspire you to say, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to learn how to do that. And I want to do it in my class, not only as a teacher, but also have your students using these tools. And I've got a whole pile of tabs opened up here. So I'm just going to kind of start with, since I have Adobe Creative Cloud Express, which is usually referred to as Adobe Express. We'll be using Google and non-Google tools because, as much as we love Google, there's other cool stuff out there, and Google is cool with that as well. So here's one that I'm really proud of. I didn't make this. I consulted with somebody in my department. I'm a head of department, but at my school, we call it Department Learning Leader. And one of the people in our department said, oh, well, I want to get a little bit better with technology, but I need help. So we sat down and spoke, kind of like Katie as a technology coach. And I didn't tell her what to do. I just said, well, what do you want to do? What do you want your students to learn? And we came up, chatting, but really it was the teacher that came up with this idea of having students work together collaboratively. And they uploaded their videos on YouTube, but they used Adobe Creative Cloud Express. I'm going to play just one video here, and you can see that this is a playlist. This was a group effort. We had 6 students working together, but all of the design was done by them. They got graded on their individual videos. That was their research and production. Just a fantastic project, I thought, which is why I got permission to use this. And the girls that made this, actually, we presented for Adobe Japan at an event earlier this year. I'm just really proud.
Welcome to the Econ Queens YouTube channel, where you will learn all about a mixed economy. We created this channel so that we can help you learn more about economics. In this video, I will be talking about the key characteristics of a mixed economy.
Okay, so I'll stop it there, and I'm just going to go back so you can see the playlist a little more clearly. So all of these videos have the same format, the same structure, made with Adobe Express. And all the transitions, what I love about it is that the transitions are natural. You choose whatever theme you want, and then the transition is automatically done for you. You can upload your own background music, but they have options in Adobe as well, and it's all copyright free. The students actually made the logo, their brand, because we talked about branding. If you use the GRASPS model with your teaching, the students have to come up with their own, in this case, you're a YouTuber, and this is your channel, and you have an audience of young people, teenagers trying to learn about economics. My whole point is that they spent more time focusing on the research and the production and the collaboration and the research, and less time actually on making a video. And they didn't have to, worry about like how my text doesn't fit and this and that. So I'll give you a couple of quick, snapshots of other ways to use it. One, this is propaganda I made to get more students to join Model United Nations at my school. And I chose this because I could embed video and text. I'll just play it as you, kind of look at it. There is no background of, myself speaking, but you can see that I've got the text. It's just a very simple 50-second video that I've taken students, images of students, videos of students when they were at an in-house conference. That's one other way that a teacher can use it. So actually, let me put this aside because that's not Adobe. That is whiteboarding, which is ridiculously cool. Let me close this. So let's put that aside. So think Adobe Express, really simple video creation for telling a story. And remember that YouTube playlist, yeah, it's about economics and how economics works, but they had to think about connecting with an audience. What am I focusing on? They had that story arc. They had the elements of storytelling, and they did it digitally. So here's another one that I will want to highlight. It is called ThingLink, and it works with 360-degree imagery. And the challenge is to get the 360-degree images sometimes. ThingLink does have a nice big library with different themes, like, for example, World Heritage Sites or cities around the world, or the environment, where you can, and this is free, you can get more stuff if you pay, but the free version is quite good as well. And you can see this is, we've got a 360-degree image here, but in this case, the way I'm telling the story is by putting information cards that can be scrolled through with text, or YouTube videos that can be clicked for a pop-up. Shameless self-promotion. I took this photo myself in these videos. But here's a cool way where students can actually create something in one simple platform, and it is very user-friendly. And, you're kind of immersed here, right? Just to let you know, this is called Mitsumine Shrine. And the history goes back well over 1,000 years. And, it's got mythical history, but real history. It's a very cool place. And this was made with ThingLink. And I think it's very engaging, and I do like the immersiveness, but also that you can add photos and text and things like that. So you'll be introduced to this as well. And since we're on the topic of 360-degree imagery, one tool that I'm fascinated that more people don't know about is called Google Story Spheres. And it works in the same way. You upload a 360-degree image, and then you create these hotspots that give audio narration. It's a fascinating place because underneath the shrine. Now, because I'm not using a tab right now in StreamYard, you can't hear the audio, but trust me, it works. And again, you might have to get the 360 images, or you can, kind of use them when you're building within Story Spheres. It's not an extremely well-developed app, but it is one that you can use. And the storytelling is in the students kind of writing about the place, recording their own audio, right? Recording their own voice and then putting it into hotspots. So we will talk about Google Story Spheres. Let's close that one right now. And since we're talking about audio, sorry, get a bit of water here. We will also touch on podcasting, because podcasting is actually not that difficult. There are a lot of very good free online podcasting tools where you record your voice, and really that's it. You record your voice, and Anchor, which is now owned by Spotify, is extremely user friendly. So we'll also talk briefly about how do you get a podcast started at your school. I will admit, it does take time. It takes commitment. We only have 7 episodes and probably about 2 years of my own school doing podcasting in our department, but it's not so difficult. You can podcast and you can empower your students to do it. All of these tools, you can get your students to do the podcasting. Now, we are going to talk about Google Earth projects. This is something dear to my heart. Let me just kind of show you how this looks. I'm going to click the table of contents. Where are we going to go? Let's go to well, Vino's in India and he's here watching right now. Let me click on plastic surgery in India. All right, so now watch as the world kind of moves a little bit. Oh, I absolutely loved it. I never get bored of this. I was on the team that was beta testing this. All right, so now usually what happens is it zooms in but I had this opened earlier, so it hasn't done that. But basically you can put images here, you can put videos, you can put your text. Let me just click on the next one and see what happens. Automatic doors in ancient Egypt, right? Oh, look at that. That's kind of cool, right? This is part of the storytelling thing I was mentioning earlier, where if we, represent something like, in this case, ancient technology, let's represent the world properly, right? Now, there's one thing I do not have here in particular, but you can actually use Google Earth's projects and zoom down to the street view. But we don't have time right now, so I'm going to leave it at that. We're also going to talk about Google Maps, Google My Maps in particular. Here is a map that my students made, actually. So here they did their research. They put their text and images into a Google form. And all I did was take the spreadsheet from the Google form and I uploaded it. And then we got this really cool classroom map of conflict around the world. And again, conflict happens everywhere. It's human nature, right? So we don't want to say that this is a bad part of the world. It looks violent, because that's not the way it really works, right? Let's see. Let's go to Book Creator. I absolutely love Book Creator, and I've used this obviously in the last, since I made it, but in the last couple of days. This is very user-friendly. There's an iPad version. There's also obviously the desktop version, which I prefer. You can create books that look like comics. You can make books that look kind of serious. You can actually, within the app, record your own audio and your own face, your own video. Well, you can snap a photo of yourself as well. There is so much you can do with Book Creator. And something that I do is always put credits to where I did my research. But also I put activities. Notice I have a Google Form escape room here embedded. I've got other apps like Kahoot and Flippity and that kind of thing. Book Creator is a very dynamic tool, and if you want to app smash, you can put so many good Google tools in there with it as well. If we have time, we'll talk about Adobe Express, but the Pages version, their web page version. This is something I was working on with some of my students, where they actually did the editing, not me. They made the videos, but they embedded them. They chose their images that they were going to put in there. This is one that I use with my students. You notice it's a really slick, nice looking web page. It's all done for you within Adobe. It's so easy to use. You just have to put your information in, choose your images. So let me close these up. And another one, if we have time, I'd like to choose to talk about Satori, the story of the 47 Ronin, right? Which is a Japanese story. Some historical truth, others maybe, other parts maybe not so true. But this is very user-friendly. You as a teacher can use it. Students find it really easy to use. You can embed, this is not the best example because I've got others that you can put quizzes and you can also put forums in here. So here's a forum. People can actually type their ideas and their comments and that kind of thing. You can actually use a present view with this. So you can actually use it kind of like, you know, Google Slides, right? You're doing a presentation. So there's different ways to use it. So I'm going to close these up, and I could talk forever and ever. I'm going to go with one more, and we'll talk about whiteboarding. And here's one I'm going to share. Some grade 8 students made this a number of years ago.
And I'm Jessica. Today we'll be talking about the positive effects of living close to a volcano. Living close to a volcano can be good because it's a spot for touring.
So these two girls in grade 8 did a fantastic job whiteboarding this. It is storytelling, and they created this. This is their video. It is digital. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I could keep talking forever. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the sake of time, I'm going to stop that right there. I'm not sure if Katie's going to come back in. I know Veronica has asked me to kind of wrap things up a little bit today, but just kind of let me know, Veronica, if you're going to jump in. And if not, then we'll bring Katie back in.
Hi there. Oh, those were awesome ideas.
That's a lot of fun. I do apologize, everyone, that the ideas I have are all based on things like social studies, history, politics, but use your own creativity and imagination, and you can use this. I've seen science teachers use this, phys ed teachers use these tools. There's a world of ideas out there. Before I kind of wrap things up for everyone, I guess, Katie, I can't wait to see you in Busan. This is great.
Yeah, it'll be nice to meet in
Twitter,
person.
but not in person. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you have any final comments before I wrap things up here?
I think just the preview that you gave today shows the depth of and breadth of the activities and the sessions that are going to be there. I know there are a ton of presenters both from Busan and elsewhere. The schedule's up, so you can kind of see some of the sessions that are scheduled, and it looks like it's going to be a really great slate of events for the weekend. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I am as well. And I'm excited, especially because this is the first time since 2019. And for many people, early 2020, that we can get together face to face, people from different, schools and backgrounds and share ideas. And that's what this summit is all about. I mean, the Apps Events Summits are always about that. You have presenters, but in sessions, we try to share ideas, and it's not all about the presenter. It's about like, hey, and what else do you have? Share that. And then the conversations over coffee and, dinner in the evenings and that kind of thing. I'm super excited. So people out there, encourage your friends, like, if they live in Korea or if they can get to Korea, like register for the summit, come on out. Katie and I, we're going to be doing Google Certified Educator boot camps on the Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, we've got, EdTech coaches. We have teachers on the ground sharing their experiences and practical ideas. Guest speaker coming from the Netherlands. My surname, by the way, is an English anglicized Dutch name. So, and I've been to Holland, which is really cool. Let's see. I feel like I'm going to forget something here, but no, I think this is all about sharing, getting together, and great ideas. So thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. And we do hope to see you in a few weeks in Busan. This is going to be epic. And, 2.5 years later, we're getting back to a little bit of normal. Right, Katie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right. So we'll say bye for now, I guess.
All right. See you in Busan.
All right. See you soon, everybody. Please register and come on out and bring your great ideas.